next generation of VR is finally approaching more than 6 years after PlayStation VR 1 first changed the way that we, well, some of us at least, will forever play video games. Because of this, PlayStation VR 2 has me more hyped than any console or peripheral launch ever before. But there's a lot of misinformation out there, and since it seems that we know a bit more about PSVR 2 than the average bear, let's dive right in. Here's everything we know about PlayStation VR 2. Sony first confirmed the existence of the PlayStation VR 2 through a blog post all the way back in February 23rd, 2021. Senior Vice President of Platform Experience Hideaki Nishino spoke in vague generalities, casually mentioning that the headset wouldn't launch in 2021, which of course we'll talk about more in just a minute. And just 2 months later, we get our first look at the new Sense controllers. It seems like Sony was picking up speed, but then crickets. We heard nothing out of Sony again until January of this year, when PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan took the stage at CES and revealed the official specs of the headset, which without Parole managed to accurately leak about 4 months earlier, the official name and logo, and of course, our first look at Horizon Call of the Mountain. The following month, February of 2022, Sony revealed the first images of PSVR 2, and, well, it certainly doesn't look cutting edge or next gen. In fact, it's pretty much the same size and shape of a PSVR 1 with a black and white motif. That said, no one had any complaints about the PSVR 1's form factor, so why mess with what works? The patented Halo design makes a return, and from all reports, it'll be just as lightweight as the original, if not more so. One of the few new design features is, thankfully, a physical IPD slider, which makes sharing your headset and adjusting your pupil distance infinitely less cumbersome than before. The PSVR 2 specs put it right up there with the best consumer headsets available. The 2K per eye resolution equate to a 4K image with an OLED HDR display using Fresnel lenses. But don't worry, these aren't the God ray-inducing Fresnel lenses you're probably used to. Sony filed a patent in 2017 for a new type of Fresnel lens that should be the best on the market. The refresh rate is the same as PSVR 1, while the FOV has been up to 110 degrees, which by comparison is 10 degrees more than the PlayStation VR 1 and 20 degrees more than Quest 2. And you should be able to achieve a slightly higher FOV by manually adjusting the lenses. The improvements don't end there though. Using Tobii eye tracking, the headset will be able to tell where you're looking, which will be great for in-game interactions. But when combined with foveated rendering, a technique that only renders your focal point at the highest resolution, well, that frees up a ton of processing power, meaning that games on PSVR 2 should be able to look just as good as their PS5 flat screen counterparts. Sony's obviously pretty concerned about motion sickness, as evident by their rigorous QA testing on PSVR 1, but they've taken things a step further with PSVR 2, by including haptics in the headset controlled by a single motor. Studies have shown that haptics in VR can significantly reduce or even eliminate motion sickness. For those of us who don't suffer from motion sickness, this will still be a game changer. The added immersion from the rev of an engine, the feeling of a strong gust of wind, or even the subtle sensation of footsteps as you walk is gonna be pretty next level. Whether you loved PSVR 1 or hated it, I think the one thing we can all agree on is that the Move controllers, for so many reasons, were not ideal for VR gaming. Light tracking required you to be standing in full view of the PlayStation 4 camera, so turning full circle frequently resulted in a loss of tracking. And if your room was too bright or had reflective surfaces or whatever, let's just say there were too many things that could easily go wrong. PSVR 2 fixes all of this with the use of inside-out tracking, which puts IR cameras in the headset itself, making tracking the controllers much more reliable. The controllers, now officially called the Sense controllers, include analog sticks, grips, and triggers with finger touch detection, haptic feedback, and adaptive triggers. And if you played any games with the PS5 DualSense controller, you already know just how much more immersion this adds to the proceedings. Unlike PSVR 1, PSVR 2 will be much easier to hook up. Sony themselves have said it'll connect with a single cable, rather than the breakout box and mess of wires we dealt with last gen. And last week, Without Parole leaked that the cable will be detachable, and if need be, replaceable, with one end being USB-C that'll plug directly into the PlayStation 5, and the other end being proprietary. So far, Sony has shown off a few different PSVR 2 games, but we know of more than 30 in development by various third-party studios. So click the link in the description if you want to see the full rundown of all the confirmed games, which I'll be updating on a fairly regular basis. But the important thing to remember is something we leaked back in August of last year about a new focus for Sony, that when it comes to PSVR 2, there will be a much bigger emphasis on hybrid games, meaning games that are not only playable in and out of VR, but when played in VR, they're VR AF, and they feel as though they were built from the ground up to be played in VR. So far, we've heard nothing about the price point, but knowing that every PSVR 2 headset will come packed with 2 Sense controllers, $400 sounds about right. But the big question is when we'll finally be able to get our hands on one, and every source I have keeps pointing to Q1 of 2023, somewhere around late February or early March. Okay, that's about all the information we have on PSVR 2 currently, but obviously the rest of this year is going to be jam-packed with more details on not just games, but the headset itself. So I'll be updating this video as the news rolls in. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to Without Parole for all the latest PSVR 1 and PSVR 2 reviews, podcasts, live streams, leaks, and of course breaking news.